And you can have a seat. Welcome again to Hillside. My name is Robbie. I'm so happy that you guys are with us this morning. Hey, would you turn in your Bibles to Psalm chapter 8 with me, Psalm 8? And we are this summer going through various Psalms in the book of Psalms, and we'll finish this series. Whoa, look at all the rain. I'm so easily distracted. Why don't you guys take a look real quick? Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. That is awesome. So we're in a series going through various Psalms in the book of Psalms. We're going to finish up on September 4th, and then we'll actually begin a new series on September 11th on the Lord's Prayer. We're actually calling it the Disciples' Prayer. It's because Jesus taught his disciples how to pray it. And so that will be our next series. But as we get started this morning, I want to share this quote with you guys from a theologian named J.I. Packer. And he writes this regarding the era in which we live in. He says this: "We stand at the end of 4 centuries of God shrinking in the public mind." We stand at the end of 4 centuries of God shrinking in the public mind. I'm not sure if you would all agree with that statement. I am guessing that none of us have been alive for 4 centuries. But what does this guy mean when he says this statement? Well, I believe that he means this: that over the course of time, and maybe throughout all of time, God has continued to get smaller and smaller in terms of how we value him in our culture, how we allow him to permeate what we're doing, in terms of how we value him in our homes, in terms of how we value God even in our churches. We become more important and God gets smaller. We tend to look a lot at ourselves, or we have become the focal point of our world, and because of that, God shrinks in terms of how we value him in our own lives. And here's the issue with this reality. There are a lot of issues, but here's the main issue as I see it. The Bible does not see it the way that our culture sees it. And every single week, it feels like we're just trying to reset ourselves with what God is saying in his word compared to what the world is telling us, right? We cannot afford to see God as smaller than he actually is. We just can't. Why can't we afford that? Well, because we were never created to hold the weight of us being the focal point of our own lives. It's just too much. We were never created to hold the weight of us being gods in our own lives. We are always in the best position, and this is what I try to tell you guys week after week after week. We are always in the best position for joy and freedom and life when God is God and we are not. And the beauty of the Psalms, all of the Psalms, is this. These Psalms that we're going to be studying this summer, that we have been studying, is that in all of their theological richness, they over and over and over again, they remind us of something very simple, and this truth is huge. We are small, and God is great. We are small, and God is great. And as we study these Psalms week after week after week, I'm excited because these texts point us to the supremacy of God. They continually point us to the reality that our God is powerful, and he's perfect, and he's the creator of the universe, and he is totally omnipotent and omnipresent. And he's personal. He's approachable, and he knows each of us by name. And so in Psalm chapter 8 this morning, we're going to go to this psalm and see this magnificent God who is so magnificent, but he cares for us individually as well. So let's start with a little bit of context for Psalm chapter 8. And here's what we do know about this psalm. We know that David wrote it. We don't know when David wrote it, but it obviously stemmed from his experience, which I think probably most of us have had. His experience was he was gazing up at the night sky, he's looking into creation, and then he's marveling at its vastness compared to his own puniness. Today's psalm is an unsurpassed example of really what a worship song should look like. It celebrates the glory and the grace of God. It rehearses who God is and what he has done. And it relates us and our world to him. And then one more thing that I think is so important for us to be aware of as we study this psalm and really all of the psalms is this. I think that probably most of us, myself included, will go to the scriptures and we will think, okay, these kinds of statements from the people in the scriptures are easy for them to say. Bible characters had an experience of God that I won't ever have. Or this is easy for this writer to say because they lived in a time when God was more active, or in a time when everyone agreed about religious things. They just lived in a different time, so it's easy for them to write these things. But I want to push back on that statement if you've ever felt it for just a minute, because it's easy for us to miss the reality that this psalm is